Hello, this is Miss Schrader. Today we're going to be talking about an art movement called Fauvism, which ran between about 1905 and 1920. My students, you're going to be needing a piece of paper and something to write with. You're going to take some notes, and when you're done, you're giving me between 7 and 10 sentences about what you've learned about Fauvism. All right, so Fauvism was an art movement that emerged in France in the early 20th century. Les Fauves means wild beasts. It's a group of modern artists who are emphasizing painterly qualities, and I'm not certain what that is, strong color over realism. So it doesn't have to be very realistic. Um, and it's retaining some of the impressionist ideas to it. It didn't last very long. And the leaders of this group were Andre Derain and Henri Matisse. And the piece you're looking at is a Matisse piece. It's called Woman with a Hat, and it was done in 1905. And you can see the very unorthodox, bright colors, lots of blues and things like that. So, very unusual. So this movement was started by a man named Gustave Moreau. He's considered the inspirational teacher of this group because he was the teacher of many of the members. And according to Matisse, Moreau, he did not set us on the right roads, but off the roads. He disturbed our complacency. So he's basically saying to them, do something different, do something crazy. The piece we're looking at right now is done by Henri Derain. It's called Charing Cross Bridge, London. So it is showing an area in London. Um, it's very juvenile in its way of painting, doesn't look at all realistic. Do you notice the dots of color, the blobs of color that are shown in the water? Very unusual. So definitely trying to get away from what you could capture with a photograph. The Fauves were able to get some of their paintings into the Salon des Automnes of 1905, the Autumn Salon, art salon of that time period, and they got a lot of recognition and people were quite impressed by them. This piece is by Henri Rousseau. It's called The Hungry Lion Throws Itself on the Antelope. And this is a huge canvas. It's 200 centimeters by 301 centimeters. So it's very, very large. I look at it, and to me, it looks like something that you would be putting in a children's book. Um, but it doesn't look very realistic, very, very colorful, very, very bright lines to show the plants in the background, things like that. This piece was shown in the 1906 Salon. This was done by Robert Delaunay. It is a portrait of Jean de Zinger. And as a portrait, it is very, very unusual. Do you notice all of the chunks of line, both in his suit and on the wall behind him, that everything's just being done in these short, straight lines? Behind him, you can see a painting that looks to be a traditional Japanese painting. And remember, the Impressionists as well as the Taoists were very influenced by medieval Japanese stuff. So he's showing that. But I want you to think about some of the earlier, more traditional portraits that we've seen and compare this one to it. It looks extremely different. This is another Andre de Rain piece. It's called Le Jetty à la Escaque. I'm probably saying all of this wrong. French is not one of my languages. It's also a 1906 oil on canvas piece. Remember, he does seem to do a lot of his work almost in a juvenile fashion, like a child's piece. It's two people in a field, obviously. He's going with very, very straight lines. And then you've got the very colorful blobs and things like this. So, not at all going with a realistic concept. Like the Impressionists, the Fauves did do a lot of traveling around in France and out of France, looking for subject matter that was exotic and different. This is by Othon Fries. It's from 1907, Paysage à la Ciotat. It's an oil on canvas piece, much lighter colors, softer, kind of feel like it's a warm place, a pretty place. Lots of light colors, a little bit more soft in its nature. You won't like this one, but they did experiment with nudes. This is by Henri Manguin, done in 1906. It's called Woman Bather. What I want you to notice is the unusual colors where they're using them. Notice that the water is being done in little short dots of color, whereas the woman's body is being done in these long pieces of color. And very unusual and things like that. So very, very different. Fauvism didn't last very long, about 15 years at the most. Most of the artists, only after a few years, lost interest, went on to doing different things. One of the rather famous artists involved, Cezanne, passed away. And so they went on to doing different things, and the style just went out. This piece is by Andre Derain. It's from 1905. It's called The Drying Sails. And once again, you can notice how a lot of his pieces are done in just slashes of color, lots of bright color, and not any attempt at all to look realistic. All right, my students, you are giving me between 7 and 10 sentences about Fauvism, and I hope you enjoyed this.